Hey, Melissa here from GirlGoneFishing, and today it is frog practice day. I went out last weekend and tried to practice my frog hook set, but I couldn't even trigger a frog bite. So I'm going to try again. I have not successfully landed a frogfish yet this season, and you know, going into the heat of summer, I have to have confidence in that hook set. So I'm going to get out to this little local park lake and practice, hopefully get some frog action. So I'll see you up in the water. So the goal for the day is frog practice. I've got my Miller rods, Switch Freak, which is what I use as my frog rod, and I'm starting off with a Spro Bronze Eye, but I also have the Jackal Kyera, and of the Booyah, I've got the Booyah Pad Crashers. So I'm gonna just pedal around this lake and give those a try and see if I can get some frog practice. Gotta get that hook set by my next tournament. Only thing that could derail my attempt to frog practice today, giant bird's nest in my only braid reel. So this tells me something that I should have a backup braid reel. Even if I don't have a pole set up with a braid reel, I should just have a backup braid reel, because if this happened in a tournament where I was counting on frog fishing, I'd be done. So backup braid reel, and I'm gonna try to cast as far as I can, and I'm gonna have to cut this off when I get home. I can't get it out. So I'm just gonna go around and keep trying to just make short little casts with the frogs, see if I can practice a little bit. Made all the effort to come out here. Since I was a dummy and bird's nested my only braid reel, and I have to cut it out when I get home because I can't get it out, I have a limited amount of line before it hits that bird's nest, and by golly, I came out here, I'm gonna keep fishing, so I just have to make short casts. But I noticed standing up makes it worse, because I guess I'm closer to the water sitting down, so I use less line, so I get a little bit farther of a cast. So in frog fishing, ideally I would stand up, because you get better leverage in getting that hook in, you know, and driving that hook set in. Standing is a lot easier, but I'm gonna have to do it sitting down today because I want to make that extra distance on the casts. I'm such a dummy sometimes. Spare braid reel from now on. Oh, I did it! I did it! Oh, I'm so excited. He's so little, but I don't care. I landed it, hooked it really nice right on the side of the mouth there. Let's get bigger ones and more. Woo! So there's a couple things that I look for when I'm trying to pick a mat to frog, because sometimes you'll be places and there'll just be so much it's overwhelming. So things I look for are, I prefer a mat that has a little less grass underneath. So like if you see it where it's just solid grass, like just like grass everywhere, I look for the grass edges in that situation, because I can't think that a fish wants to be in something that feels like he's in a car wash with like stuff touching him everywhere. So I look for one that has like grass, but grass with like some roads in it, you know what I mean? And another thing I look for is grass that either tops over, or lily pads, or duckweed, which is the little tiny stuff that kind of mats up, little round leaves that gather up. Those I like. Slime I don't like. So here, let me show you. Not sure what this is, but there's like some really snotty grass, and there's some like really hard stuff that's like Brillo patty. So that's my least favorite stuff to try to frog, because one, it gets in everything, and two, I just don't feel like when the fish busts through it, you're able to get a good hook set, because that stuff kind of covers your hook. So you have to do a massive hook set, you know, well, I mean, you have to anyway, the frog. That fish was an example of that. So I've come upon this part of the grass that has attracted that snotty, slimy Brillo patty stuff, and I wasn't getting any attention in it. But I looked back, and there's this pocket behind this grass right, or behind this plant that's growing up here. And in the pocket, it's just open water and duckweed, and it's just kind of protected by a little bit of wood and that little bit of grass there, that little bit of plant. So I threw back into that pocket, hopped the frog twice, and got that fish. So the fish was sitting back behind the snotty grass, not in the snotty grass. So I don't know, you know, that happens to back up my theory. Don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I'm going with right now. So a couple other things I look for a productive mat. You listen for the sound of the little bait fish underneath hitting the surface. It sounds kind of like, you know, like a little kissing sound. Sometimes you can even see their little mouths. Another thing I look for is dragonflies. I don't know what the connection is. Maybe the bass like the dragonflies, maybe the dragonflies hang out on the healthiest mats, which would then attract the fish. But mats that have dragonflies seem to usually have all the other things I like and would hold fish. So in my experience, limited as it may be, when you're fishing mats, it's about the same as like trying to pick targets in normal open water. If there's wood, if there's a variance in the mat, you know, like if there's a big hole in the mat all of a sudden, that's probably, or there's a good chance that's where a fish blew up through there at some point. So you want to try that hole. And if there's a sudden like dip in the edge of the mat or something like that, or if it changes from slime to duckweed, or lily pads pop up, or you know, anything where there's a change, just like regular fishing, changing the shoreline, you got to throw at it, right? So similar to open water, look for any kind of variation or change in the mat, and that gives you a little higher percentage area to find those fish. I'm not a big fan of spiders. That tree had spiders on it. Check that out. Oh, this is awesome. He's a nicer one, but we can do better. So one of the advantages of fishing from a kayak and fishing from my Hobie Lynx in particular is we have a shallow draft, meaning the amount of the boat that's underwater, and we don't have, most of us don't have those big motors hanging out the back. So I can get my kayak, especially my Lynx, because it's super shallow on the hull, I can get into places that most boats can't. So first I fished the outside of this little like kind of cut here because I didn't want to, you know, get in and disturb it until I'd fished it thoroughly. So I fished that. Now I've moved into the next layer. I'm going to fish this, and now I've pulled my pedal drive. I've got my paddle ready, and I'm going to paddle way back in there, and maybe I can get my lure on some fish that, you know, don't get hit by frogs all the time. So one of the advantages of kayaking that I don't know people take advantage of a lot, you know, paddle up that creek, paddle into that cut, go into that backwater, you know, explore. It's fun, and you find some fish that have not had that exposure to lures. Ooh, a fish just jumped here. I gotta get back to work. So when I'm frog fishing, I try a variety of retrieves until I find the one that the fish want. Well, hopefully I find the one that the fish want. So my favorite is super slow. So I throw it out there, I let all the ripples disappear, and then I do twitch, and then I let it sit. Twitch, let it sit. Then maybe twitch, 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 let it sit. So that's my favorite way to do it, like stealth and sneaky. But if they're not hitting that, then I go twitch, 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 pause. Twitch, 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 pause. Twitch, 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 pause. If they're not biting that, I need to work on getting my frog in there smoother. So if they're not biting that, I go twitch, 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 pause. And then finally, I just try to treat it almost like a buzz frog and just move it really fast and then freeze. And then get it going again. For this, I'm making a big V in the water. See the V the frog's making there? Then I start over at the beginning of the cycle again. Slow, stealthy hops. So the real trick is maintaining enough focus that when a fish does come up and hit your topwater, you don't just scream and, you know, pull the topwater away. Not that I know anything about that. It gets hard though when you go like really long time in between bites. It gets hard to maintain that focus. Another thing you have to focus about is when you're mixing up your retrieve like I do, you know, trying to do different things until you figure out what's working. When you're doing that, you have to focus enough to know what they hit, what you were doing when they hit. And that's a tough one for me, because I kind of zone into just fishing, like I'm the frog, you know? And then the fish hits and it's like, whoop, whoop, alarms are going off in your head, you're like panic, get the fish in, you know, all this action. By the time I get it all done, I'm like, what was I doing with that frog? I don't know, but I need to get better with the focus. So this is interesting. I have thrown back here for about 10 minutes now, and I haven't got a single roll on the lure, blow up, boil, nothing. And I'm not hearing a lot of the little, you know, the little smacking sounds back here. So maybe it's hotter back here. I didn't bring my electronics. So, you know, maybe baking in the sun in the more shallow water back here, it's too warm. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in hot bath water if I had moving water out there. So I think I'm gonna say this didn't work and try out there again. This is just ridiculous trying to frog with just this little bit of line. I'm kind of afraid that if I hooked a big one, it would break, like because of the bird's nest, you know, because that knot in there. But I'm still gonna play. This is the only time this weekend I'm gonna get to fish, so I'm fishing. So I've heard a couple different things about how weather affects mat fishing, like lily pad fishing, frog fishing. And one of them is if there's wind, you want the wind blowing into the mat because it pushes all the food. Bait fish follow, and then the big fish follow the bait fish, and so you want that. That's going to make a productive mat. And one thing I don't quite know about is the sun, because I know that when the sun comes out, the fish don't want to just be sitting in full sun, so I think they're going to pull back under the mat. But I don't know if, like on a cloudy day in open water, if it's cloudy, you're going to have a better chance of getting a bite. But what does the sun do to frog fishing? I don't know yet. I haven't had enough time with it, but I'm going to keep experimenting. Today's helping because 1 minute's sunny, 1 minute's cloudy, 1 minute's windy, 1 minute it's still. Well, I think that's pretty much done for the day, so no more frogging, but I gotta go home and cut this off and re-string it and do another one. From now on, I'll always have 2 braid reels with me. That was fun though. Getting much better at that part. The secret has been making sure everything is leashed and taking off anything that isn't leashed before I tip it. So taking off the H-crate with the rods and all the weight in it helps too. So that was no problem. I can't believe I struggled with that for like 1.5 years. Well, not a terrible day of practice. I did land 2 frogfish, which were the first ones I landed all year so far. I did miss 3, so not the best ratio, but it gives me a little bit of confidence going into next weekend. I have a tournament up at a very grassy lake, so I have to make the decision if I'm going to launch in the shallow end, which you're all in on frog fishing and punching and weightless Senko, or on the other end where you have some more options. But I had to know that I could connect with the frog, because otherwise, you know, the shallow end wasn't even in the question. It wasn't even in the mix, because why would I go and frog fish if I can't land a fish on a frog? So practice today accomplished a little bit of confidence, and I think maybe I got my rhythm back a little bit. So thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks to Strictly Sail and Kayak for the links. I got back in places that I don't think I would have been able to with like any other boat or kayak. So love my links, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next weekend up at Mosquito.